I think everyone's very familiar with the label product manager, but product analyst is, I think new, unique. How do you think about the differences between a product manager and a product analyst? And then maybe a second question would be, what dimension is an analyst really delivering a ton of value on?
Yeah, it's a great question. And to be honest, till someone works with a product analyst, one doesn't realize how powerful a role a good product analyst can play in product development. But a product manager's job, I think, first and foremost, is to figure out which customer problems are most important to solve in order to accomplish a desired business outcomes. So, what do product managers do? Take business outcomes. We want to accomplish X as a business. And they then figure out how to translate those outcomes into customer problems, which are really around customer behavior changes. What customer behavior changes? Because what's the goal of a product? It is to drive a change in a customer behavior. If a product is launched and a customer behavior doesn't change, the product basically might not have launched at all. And so we've got to figure out what customer behavior changes, because ultimately all the business outcomes, whether it's revenue, profit, whatever it is, are a result of customers changing behavior. Customers were not a customer. This person was not a customer. They became a customer. They were a customer that was only using the product once a month. Now the behavior changed. They're using it 5 times a month. They were not paying. They went to paying. So if you think about it, almost everything we think of is actually a change in customer behavior. So the product manager's job is to figure out what customer behavior changes will lead to that business outcome, and then to figure out what the best solutions are, what are the best ways tactically to basically change this customer behavior. So that's at a high level. I mean, it's a very, I guess, abstract way of thinking, but I think this framework is a good framework. Business outcomes, customer behavior changes, and then which features, which are really hypotheses around what things can move customer behavior. A product analyst role is really to deliver insights that help make these product decisions, that make these decisions around customer behavior changes. I think they do at least 3 things, if not more, very well. One, opportunity sizing. So there's many different ways. It could be a certain behavior. For example, I said a customer is using us once we have 20% of customers use us 2 times a month. We want those people to use us 5 times a month. How do we change that? Now, there are many different ways that you could do that. What the product analyst helps do is try to figure out with each of these ways, what is the size of that opportunity? What is the impact of it? So can we predict it based on what we know about our customers, based on what we've done in the past? Can we predict the impact of these 5 different ways? Because ultimately, you got to prioritize, you got to sequence. And so which could be the most impactful way based on what we know? That's one. So it's almost a compass that tries to directionally estimate which direction to go in. Second, experiment design. And I think we'll hopefully get a chance to talk about that, but really designing experiments to prove hypothesis. Once you say, let's run this experiment, this is the best experiment, this is the best way, this is our hypothesis on the best way to move this customer behavior. How do you run an experiment? How do you design it? How do you then run it and make sure it's statistically significant? And the third is quantifying, and this is a constant thing, quantifying underlying business relationships. There is something called an output metric. An output metric is, something, for example, revenue is an output metric, or even retention is an output metric. But what are input metrics? Input metrics are things that we control that lead to changes in output metrics. For example, if you're a delivery company, it's likely that if you can somehow improve the number of orders that you deliver within a certain period of time, if you can improve delivery times, it's probably going to result in an improvement in retention. But what is that improvement? Is it going to be because it's expensive to lower delivery times? What is the actual increase in retention? Is it worth putting the energy, effort, money in to reduce delivery times in order to improve retention? So you need to know the relationship. Similarly, if you lower price, almost certainly people will order more. But what's the relationship? How much should you lower price? Should you lower price all the way to zero? Obviously, you can't do that. But what is the relationship between price and demand, for example, or retention? So these are all the relations between input metrics that we control and output metrics that are changes in customer behavior that we observe. And if we don't know the relationship, we can't make good trade-offs around what to do. And we have to good analysts are constantly trying to run experiments to figure out or use data to figure out what's the relationship between things we control and things we observe later, which are the output metrics. So those are the 3 things. And then I think they also help us set goals. So help product teams set goals around, hey, we have, say, 1,000 people who are using us daily. if you want to grow it to 10,000 people, is that realistic or not? What do we know from the past, what we've done? So what is a realistic goal? Is it 5,000, 10,000, 100,000, etc.? So they are an indispensable. Again, I think in the past, I've been in situations where analysts have been used more for dashboarding, where they use post-factor reporting. They create great BI dashboards, looker tables, whatever it is, whatever the tool of choice is. And that's, I think, they get disgruntled ultimately because that's not what is the best use of their talents, I think.
It's
And
very low leverage. It sounds like if all you're doing is putting together a dashboard.
exactly, they don't feel that they are actually influencing product decisions. And so I think you'll find instant productivity change. Therefore, I think the dashboarding work should either be just moved to self-serve, where people can create their own dashboards, roll them out with tools like Looker and so on, or there should be a dedicated BI team whose job is to just build these dashboards easily. But using analysts, product analysts to create dashboards, I think is maybe a 10% part of their job at most.
Yeah.